Soy John Ortega Galván.
I am John Ortega Galvan. I am dedicated to the investigation of the species of the tropical dry forest and other ecosystems present in the Caribbean region.
En estos momentos nos encontramos
At this moment, we are in the village of Tierra Santa that belongs to the municipality of El Roble in the department of Sucre on the north coast of Colombia.
Denominada como la subregión sabana.
This is a region known as the Sabana subregion. I bought this farm in 1980.
Y de ahí entonces.
And at that time, there was a lot of forest.
Bueno, bosque por todas partes, pero.
Good forest everywhere, but people worked on it and burnt it so much that it caused too much damage. It is burnt a lot.
Y ese bosque siempre lo ha mantenido.
I've always maintained that forest. I've taken care of the people so that they notice the trees because I've always liked contact with nature.
Yo empiezo este proyecto en.
I started this project on February 20, 2015. I quit my job in the city of Barranquilla in the department of Atlántico,
Y me vengo para acá.
on the north coast of Colombia, and I decided to come here with empty pockets but full of hope and great desire.
Me encuentro en este lugar y el tío Freddy.
I'm in this place, and Uncle Freddy told me that there was a place in which, according to what I had told him, perhaps I could be of use.
Bueno, si tú ves que.
Well, I told him, if you see that it's possible here, come. And when he came with the investigation, and one day we went out there.
Ya nos metimos por ahí, caminamos todo el bosque.
We walked all over the forest.
Conservando todo este entorno.
So he was conserving all this environment for a long time. So one day we decided to walk it, and I saw a very important factor, and I saw that it had great potential for nature tourism, for research.
Empezar a trabajar sin apoyo.
So I decided to start working without support, working practically with my nails, and I began to fix the path,
Hacer el mariposario
to build the butterfly farm. And that is how this project began.
de cero.
Y entonces ya él vio todo lo que.
So he already saw everything. I didn't understand much of what he was telling me at first, that everything was a host plant.
Y eso pues, yo veía la cosa como toda rara, pero bueno, sí.
So I saw everything strange. But hey, if this is useful to you, okay. Whatever works for you, use it.
Bueno, Estación Biológica Tierra Santa,
Well, Estación Biológica Tierra Santa
por esa necesidad de conservar,
is a project that was born out of the need to conserve, care for, and protect our ecosystems. We're in a place where ecosystems are deteriorating for different reasons,
razones. Una de esas es la ganadería y agricultura expansiva.
one of which is expansive livestock and agriculture, the indiscriminate burning, and the most important is the lack of knowledge that communities have about the importance and how to take advantage of these ecosystems in a rational way.
Hay que tener un espacio de bosque.
You always have to have a forest space and a conservation space. Everyone should have that, have their space to carry out activities such as agriculture and livestock. This will be something that has to do with sustainable development.
Lo más difícil es entrar a una zona netamente agrícola y ganadera.
The most difficult thing is to enter an area that is honestly agricultural and cattle raising and arrive and talk to the people, the farmers, the communities about environmental issues, mainly butterfly issues, in a place where men are dedicated to doing rough jobs and their idiosyncrasies,
Su orgullo
and also their pride. It can be said, as machismo, they are men who dedicate themselves to rough jobs. Coming to talk to them about butterflies or conservation, I think it was something very difficult.
Muchas personas se burlaron en el momento que empezaron.
Many people laughed at the moment they realized that I was going to build a butterfly garden.
Primero,
First, people said that we were crazy. How were we going to raise butterflies?
como la gente también no sabía.
Since people were unaware of it, I was following in John's footsteps. The first thing we did was something handmade.
El primero que hicimos fue artesanal de madera, sacamos penca y palo y todo cortamos.
Made of wood. We took the stalk, the stick, and everything.
Bueno, después sí, ya lo que se fue que
We cut there and built the first one. Well,
nos dio para eso.
Then he won an award with Colsensias, and from there people began to see things.
Así que empiezo tomando fotos.
So I start taking photos with a low-end cell phone. I begin to take photos and record species that are found in this environment and publish those publications.
Esas publicaciones llegaron
They reached a friend from England.
de Inglaterra. Este amigo
This was a friend interested in the species of Lepidoptera.
del lepidóptero de la familia Esfinge decidió regalarme una cámara Canon.
This was a friend interested in the species of Lepidoptera from the family Hesperidae. They decided to give me a Canon camera and send me resources so that I could carry out some research, such as cheating lights, and thus I was able to obtain many more records. Thanks to that camera, I began to have clearer records and contacting specialists in the different species that I was finding. I began to put together illustrated catalogues with the species of this area. In this place, it was never possible to carry out investigations due to the problem of violence and the armed conflict that was experienced in this area. So much of what is here is new. On this trail, we found the first record for Colombia of a butterfly of the genus of the family Hesperidae caristoides basoches, and there are already other records, but the first record was found on this path. In fact, we have found other species that need to be collected to confirm if it is a new record, and thus we have worked on many research topics. This project
Trataba sobre la apropiación social del conocimiento.
has been recognized, and we were awarded precisely in the announcement for the social appropriation of knowledge. It is something very important. I'm not a biologist. I've never set foot in a university, but the knowledge acquired has been thanks to the 30 years of experience in the identification of species, especially in the tropical dry forests, and this allowed me to get to know and see how important what we have here in this ecosystem. Above all, because of the exact identification of the species that we have here, which has been of great interest for conservation and research.
Este es un sendero muy variado.
This is a very varied path, which allows us to carry out activities such as research, environmental education, conservation, and tourism.
Que está conservado.
It is a path that is preserved. We have a great diversity of species of both flora, fauna, and entomofauna,
Una herramienta para las instituciones educativas.
and it also offers a tool for institutions where you can carry out research activities and topics such as conceptual pedagogy.
La pedagogía conceptual, traer niños, hacer talleres.
Bring children, do workshops, learn about the relationship that exists between this entire ecosystem and the gears between the species that inhabit in this entire place, and the importance of each tree,
Cada árbol que tiene cada planta, y eso nos permite
which each plant has, that allows us to have knowledge, that leads us to the conservation and protection and care of all the natural resources that we have within this system.
un sendero fue diseñado
This is a trail which was designed taking into account the species, where some types of stops or scenarios are made where different themes are discussed.
En este sendero hemos identificado muchas especies de familia de flora.
On this path, we have identified many species of the flora families. Here we have the Sapindaceae, we have Rubiaceae, we also have Fabaceae. We have a single species of the Burseraceae, family of the genus Proteum. We have Melatomataceae, we have Araceae, Cumbrataceae, and there are many species of much interest. All these species, if there is support for research, we could carry out productive projects that involve communities.
El sendero está diseñado
The trail is designed precisely to show what wealth that we have, to teach visitors.
visitantes y no solo hablar de árboles y de plantas.
The objective is not only to talk about trees and plants. Research is carried out here. There are camera traps, and we have detected mammals, ocelots. We have detected possums, foxes, raccoons, ferrets. Also a great diversity of birds and nocturnal species that occur in this area.
Y especies nocturnas que se dan en esta zona. Aquí hay una mariposa.
Here is a butterfly of which very little is known. It is beginning to be studied, and it is very important.
Lo que tenemos acá prácticamente muchas cosas.
What we have here are practically new things, because an investigation could never be carried out here due to the problems of the armed conflict. This area was previously a corridor of the Carmenza Beltran Company of the FARC Front 35, which operates in this area, but today, thank God, we have been recognized for having converted what in the past was a guerrilla corridor into a place dedicated to research, conservation and protection of our natural resources. Teaching environmental education, especially to all the communities that are the ones that are in influence and are the ones that can have the power to protect the ecosystem. Well, I've been here for about 10 years or so. Before starting the project, I was linked to this area because I've always liked nature. Here we have counted about 9 individuals. These species move in this biological corridor. Many times in the summer, there is only one source of water, and they arrive in the afternoons to drink water and camp here. They sleep in this area, and very early they go out to forage. They go out to look for their food, but they are always almost in this area. In winter times, they have water in other places. Perhaps there are trees that have fruits for certain seasons of the year, and they stay in those places for food. But in the summer, we almost always find them here because they have the source of water precisely on this path. A source of water that we protect because not only howler monkeys come to drink water, in fact, it is a place where the traps have detected more species because they come to drink water here. The topic of the butterfly farm was born when I worked at the Barranquilla Zoo. I remember a lot about a friend who is just now in Australia. Her name is Frances Serrano. At a lunch at the zoo, she and I were talking, and she began to comment on the issue of the commercialization of beetles. Colombia is exporting Dynastis Hercules beetles to Japan, so that caught my attention. From there investigating, I began to see that there was a trade not only in beetles, but also in butterflies, and that in Colombia was very incipient. But we had a great diversity, so I began to contact people who knew about the subject, about marketing, and I decided to contact Mr. Luis Jairo Silva. He is a retired professor from the Universidad Distrital de Barranquilla. He is one of the managers of Zona Natural, one of the companies that sells butterflies. So he began to guide me on this topic. What I liked and what left me more connected with butterflies is that I have always felt a connection to topics related to flora and butterflies. They're related to the forest. The plants, because each butterfly has a plant called a host. It's called a host because that plant hosts a larva of the butterfly. The butterfly can fly kilometers looking for that plant. When it finds it, there is a chemical attraction in its legs. It touches the plant, and it realizes whether or not it is the plant. There it deposits its eggs, and the entire cycle of the butterfly begins. If this plant disappears, the butterfly disappears from the ecosystem. So I decided to set up a butterfly farm. I learned a lot from the mistakes on the subject of butterflies at the level of the Caribbean region. There was nothing. All information is from Costa Rica, and here from Colombia and from other places. There was no information on butterflies here in the Caribbean region. Therefore, the behavior of the species in captivity was also unknown. How do these species act when locked up in a place? And if that affects them to deposit their eggs? So I had to learn with mistakes. Later, with the passage of time, I understood about the height that a butterfly garden should be. The temperature that a butterfly garden should be. The type of plants that should be inside a butterfly garden. Because some plants are not only nectariferous or hosts, some also supply pheromones that encourage the mating of the species. I learnt all this and built the first butterfly farm thanks to a cousin who gave me 1,000,000 pesos. With that, I bought the polyshadow and started with the environment he gave me. We did it completely by hand. I remember that this needs some permits that are already there, thanks to the green business window of Car Sucre. This has been brought forward and we are about to receive the marketing license. But at that time I remember that I had no money and I had to go in the cars that take the cheese from here to Sincelejo to be able to do my errands in the capital, fill out support and fill out the issue of environmental licenses, and there were more disappointments than joys when I returned it from those places. So it was very hard to start it without support, but thank God and to the effort that I know I have been making, that I began to have acknowledgements not only regionally but also nationally and internationally.
sino nacional e internacional. Colombia es el país número uno en diversidad de...
Colombia is the #1 country in diversity of butterfly species. We have around 3,642 species, of which 192 are endemic. This means that you can only find them in Colombia.
Y esto es...
And this is very attractive for butterfly buyers. The question is always,
La pregunta siempre es qué hacen.
what do they do with the butterflies? Who buys butterflies?
Actualmente el boom de las mariposas
Currently, the boom of butterflies is increasing in the matter of work on butterflies in zoos in different cities, and they always need a certain number of species that they cannot create due to climate and environmental conditions and the altitude in some cities.
condiciones del clima y el ambiente y la altura en algunas ciudades, entonces acuden.
So the species that we have here in this area come to the butterfly farm.
Dentro del mariposario,
Here in this area, we have around 24 species studied, where we have studied their life cycle, and these species are inside the butterfly farm, and the activity that is carried out is to go out early and collect the eggs,
temprano, salir y colectar los huevitos,
check the host plant's leaves. These eggs are collected and then taken to the laboratory.
llevan hacia el laboratorio. En el laboratorio los rotulamos
In the laboratory, we label them with the date and the species.
y esto nos permite llevar un control y saber el ciclo.
We mark it, and this allows us to keep track and know the biological cycle of many species. For example, the morpho butterfly can last about 120 days. The Helicoinus irato butterfly that is representative of the tropical dry forest can last 8 days to hatch the eggs. So both the development time and the colour, shape and size of the chrysalis, of the caterpillar and the eggs are diverse. Once these eggs hatch, they are taken to the host plant, and there we place the caterpillars. They begin all the development on their host plant. They begin to eat, and these caterpillars grow. When they finish eating the entire plant, more food must be placed on it.
Y estas orugas van creciendo.
That is why we have to have the host plants planted and repopulate, because if the plant is there, the butterfly will also be there. Once a caterpillar becomes an adult, it begins to walk in the part where the feeders are,
También va a estar.
where the food is placed, and that caterpillar begins to walk because it is looking for a suitable place to
La parte donde está el...
it is looking for a suitable place to pupate.
Y esta oruga empieza a caminar y es buscando...
What is pupation? It is when the caterpillar is going to transform into a chrysalis or pupa.
Se va a transformar en crisálida o pupa.
Butterflies have many predators. In fact, in nature they are known as biological controllers, and indeed these predators are the ones that control. For example, certain butterflies are pests for crops. Caterpillars feed on crops. So these biological controllers control the amount of caterpillars.
Entonces, estos controladores biológicos controlan esa cantidad de orugas.
In terms of butterfly breeding, we need to keep them isolated from the environment
Con una malla.
with an angel mesh so that these predators do not enter. So we have to keep them enclosed to avoid these problems. In the same way, the chrysalis in the state chrysalis or pupa are also attacked by predators that end up doing the same, depositing their eggs inside the chrysalis. So it is very important to have them separated and isolated, and the space well covered, but with conditions where there is light and a pleasant temperature.
Bueno, este es un proyecto muy importante.
Well, this is a very important project because it has brought a social transformation in the environmental part
De lo que tiene que ver con
and with what it has to do with this area at the time of the armed conflict. That is why I decided to name it the Biological Station and place it in Tierra Santa,
sobre este lugar había una mala imagen.
because in this place there was a bad image, a place where acts of violence were experienced. So thanks to this project, this is creating trust. People are becoming aware that it is very important to preserve the environment,
Y que conservar el medio ambiente, pues,
and that conserving the environment can be another way of generating income and make social change in communities.
grupos grandes, se consiguen personas de...
When there are large groups, they get people from Tierra Santa, women who help cook. People from the same town also come who can be paid to do maintenance on the trails.
La idea es involucrar a los niños, enseñarles
The idea is to involve the children, teach them all these issues so that they can continue to preserve and conserve all these ecosystems, and that is a legacy that we have.
ingresamos a negocios verdes.
We joined Negocios Verdes. At that time, Linda Rios was there. She was in charge of Negocios Verdes.
Linda Ríos, ella era la encargada de negocios verdes, y la contacté mientras hacía las diligencias de...
I contacted her while she was doing the business license procedures. We invited her. She recommended that we write to Negocios Verdes, precisely the day the Green Business Window was inaugurated. We attended. It must be said that, in reality, the only institution that has supported us so far is the Green Business Window. In fact, we have not had support from the municipality, and the Green Business Window has always helped us.
Y siempre la ventanilla de negocios verdes nos ha abierto espacios para mostrar lo que estamos haciendo.
It has opened spaces to show what we are doing. For example, what is being done with TV Agro is very important because this is going to transcend.
Y lo que comentaba ahorita, va a ir cambiando la...
Is going to be shown in other countries and in different regions of the country. And what I was commenting on right now is going to change the negative perception that this place has had due to the violent events that took place in the past. Is now becoming a place of interest for conservation, for tourism, and to be an example in the issues of social transformation of the communities through biocommerce. That is why the support of the Green Business Window Car Sucre is very important.
De este proyecto y abriéndonos espacio y dándonos a conocer.
I think they have been a fundamental piece in the development of this project, making us known and allowing us to open new spaces. It is very important to invite people to reflect on the importance of taking care of our ecosystems.
Si nosotros no cuidamos nuestros ecosistemas,
If we do not take care of our ecosystems, we are condemned to many negative factors.
necesitamos cuidar nuestros ecosistemas.
We need to take care of our ecosystems because the life of the planet depends on it, and it depends on us to leave a good inheritance to our future generations.
Y que ellos sigan este legado.
And that they continue this legacy to continue conserving, because we are practically at a point of no return. Climate change is being seen, and it is not a story. I'm not saying that, nor did I get it from Google.
Actualmente es grave lo que está sucediendo en el planeta.
Currently, what is happening on this planet is serious, and there is a total disorder in the climate, and all this is due to the loss of many ecosystems. We need to conserve and take care of what we have up to now.
La mayor satisfacción, más que todo, es
The greatest satisfaction is knowing that I am leaving a mark,
que fui una persona que empecé de cero.
that I was a person who started from scratch, and as a great example. Sometimes there are people who have the means, they have the money, but they do nothing to preserve. In my case, I have sacrificed myself. I have left my family in a distant place because I am not from here. I have carried out this work with a lot of sacrifice. The greatest satisfaction has been getting to where I am, having started with zero, from scratch, with effort and sacrifice.
Y también la tranquilidad.
Also the tranquility, the feeling that nature absorbs you in its entirety. It cleanses you with everything that has to do with the city, with pollution. I'm not just talking about pollution in the environment, but pollution, which is what social networks are, for example, of the music that is currently available. And being here is like being in another world, being away from all that contamination. That is very satisfying.
Toda esa contaminación, eso es algo también que es como satisfactorio.